Today on StampTV, I'm going to show you an elegant card using the new Journey of the Heart StampTV kit along with a few embellishments that I cut with the Silhouette electronic cutter. You can cut these embellishments exactly like mine if you have a Silhouette, or you can use similar pieces made from dies, punches, or other electronic cutters that you may have in your collection to achieve the same look. Let me show you the tools and products you're going to need to make this card project. First, you're going to need some ink, and I'm using the Gina Designs Black Onyx ink along with our Moonlit Fog ink. You're going to need some ribbon, and I'm using some of our white Organdy ribbon. I'm also going to use a little black twine by We Are Memory Keepers and a Moonlit Fog button. You're also going to need some scissors. Then I have a Cuttlebug folder in the Swiss dot pattern. I also have some glue dots. These are the mini glue dots. These also come on a roll, and whichever way you have them, they're the same product inside. And then I'm also going to use some 1/4-inch pop dots. I'll need some adhesive, so I'm going to use my mono adhesive, and then I'm going to use some of the stamps from the new Journey of the Heart StampTV kit. I'm going to use this sprig that looks like it has berries on the outside of the little branches. And then I'm going to use this fern style stamp. And then I have a greeting stamp here. And all of these stamps come from, well, these stamps come from Little Branches. And this one comes from the With Love and Prayers mini set. All of these are in the Journey of the Heart StampTV kit. Now for cardstock, I'm going to use some of the Gina Designs white heavy base weight cardstock, and this is for my card base. And then I'm also going to use some of our layering cardstock in white and some of our base weight black onyx. To begin, I have a square of white cardstock here. Now I cut this particular piece using the Silhouette electronic cutter, but you can cut the same thing using either a die or a punch, or if you just want to use a paper cutter, you can cut a square, and you can round the corner using a corner rounder. So any of those methods will work. Now the ink I'm going to start with is the black onyx ink, and I'm going to ink up this sprig of berries here. And I love our black onyx for these silhouette stamps. You get such a nice bold look. And I'm going to stamp this one up toward the top, right in the middle. There we go, like that. Then I'm going to use some of the Moonlit Fog ink, and with that I'm going to use this fern stamp. And I'm going to ink this up using Moonlit Fog. And then I'm going to stamp one coming in from this angle, like that. Then I'll ink that up again. And then I'm going to do the same thing, one coming in from the other side, like that. And it's okay if they overlap a little bit. That's just fine. Kind of want to make it look like wildflowers and sprigs and things all blowing in the breeze. So there is that particular pattern. Now I have a piece of cardstock here that I'm going to layer with my black onyx cardstock. But before I do that, I'm going to use the I'm going to use the Cuttlebug. I'm getting my cutting machines mixed up. I'm going to use the Cuttlebug with an A and a B plate. Start with the A and a B. And then I'm going to use the Swiss dot folder. Now, to know how much to leave off at the bottom, because I'm not going to emboss this entire piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up sideways right into the nook of that folder. And then I can kind of shimmy it down a little bit to make sure that it's straight at the top. And you can see that, so that row of dots is nice and straight at the top. And I could probably make it even a little bit straighter. It's one thing I really like, my embossing folders to be, my embossed edges to be straight. Now I'm actually going to slide this over just a little bit because I want to not only make sure that the dots going across the top are straight, but I want the same amount of embossing on both sides. So I want a row of dots right on the edge there and a row of dots right on the edge there. So you can play with your Cuttlebug folder and make sure that it looks the way you want it to look. Then I'm going to put the other B plate on top and run this through. And this way I have just the top of the folder, this part here, embossed, and then I've left some room at the bottom where I can stamp my greeting. So now my next step is I'm going back to that black Onyx ink again, and I'm going to add my greeting. But before I do that, I want to show you what I created. This is also from my Silhouette Cameo. It can be cut on either the Cameo or the portrait, but a lot of you have this same kind of thing in a die, or you might have a border punch. So just make a small border, and if you don't have a border, you can use a piece of ribbon to go across the bottom, and that would look very pretty too. It would finish it off very nicely. You can see what I mean here. If I add that ribbon there, that divides it. So maybe use a piece of black ribbon, and there's a nice black gingham ribbon in the kit that you could use instead. But I want to show you how pretty this looks with this little strip here. So I'm going to cover up that last row of dots, and I'm going to use my mono adhesive here to add some tape to the back of that. And then I'm going to have to pick this up to make sure that I put this on straight. But I'm going to use that row of dots as my guide. And I've also cut this to fit, so that helps a lot. If you cut the strip to the right size, then you're bound to get it on there nice and straight. So there is that pretty little delicate strip going across the bottom. Now I'm going to use that black Onyx ink and this greeting stamp, and this is the stamp that says "With love and prayers." Now I have an extra little piece of scrap paper here, and I'm just going to stamp this once at the bottom to make sure that it's straight. That I know how to stamp it straight. Yep, that looks nice and straight. You can see that. Excuse my head if it gets in the way. That's one thing, it's hard for me to stamp straight unless I'm looking right down on it. Okay, so I'm going to stamp this one, head in the way again. And there we go. So there I have my greeting right under there. Now comes the fun part. We're going to assemble this card. So I'm going to adhere this panel together using some mono adhesive, and you see how nice that black border looks. So we'll add that now. And I know lots of you have in your collection already different kinds of scalloped squares and scalloped square punches and all kinds of square types of die cut things that you can use. So I would suggest that if you don't have the Silhouette Cameo or Portrait, that you use a nice scalloped or a lacy scalloped edge for this part. But I want to show you the one that I put together using a Silhouette cut file. And this is called the Ornate Square. Isn't that just beautiful? So all I did was stick that onto the Ornate Square. I just love that particular cut file. And you can also see, if you are in the market for an electronic cutter, you can see how fine detailed this is. The Silhouette does a better job than any cutter I've seen so far. Okay, so now I'm going to adhere this onto my card using some 1/4" pop dots. And before I do that, let's mount this whole panel right onto this card base. We'll get that on there so that we don't have to squish anything down once we have the rest of the card put together. So this is going on my card base like this. And then using some of these 1/4" pop dots, I'm going to put one in each corner of this frame. And once again, this is called the Ornate Square Frame. If you are a member at StampTV, or even if you're not a member at StampTV, if you visit stamptv.com, underneath the video screen will have the item number and name of this particular cut file if you're looking for that. So you can get that there. And I will also add that underneath the YouTube video as well. All right, now I'm going to pop this into place here. Oh, that's so pretty. And then all of that scroll work is just free. It's not attached to anything, which makes it look a little bit more like wrought iron. I just think that's so pretty. Okay, so now my next step is to add an embellishment. I have a little blank spot here, and I think what I'm going to do is grab a little bit of this white ribbon and, excuse my band-aid, I'm still not healed up from when I cut myself. I'm going to make a bow, a single loop bow. So I'm going to wrap it around my 3 fingers one time like that, and then I'm going to put all this excess in between there, just pull that through. Now I'm going to, oops, let's do that. I wrapped it around my 3 fingers for size, but now, okay, so now that's wrapped around once, and then this part is pulled through that hole. And now I'm going to grab the loose end and pull it through and make sure it's between my fingers when I pull up on it. And now I have a pretty little bow. And you've seen me do this before. This is my answer to not having access to the bow easy right now. Actually, I'm kind of having a good time with never forgetting my bow easy since it's attached to me. Okay, so now I'm going to cut the excess off of here. And then I'll put that back in my ribbon jar. Okay, so I want to add that gray button, that Moonlit Fog button onto here. So I'm going to grab some of that twine. And I'm going to start by going into the front of the button first. Should have cut this end too. Let me do that. If you start with a nice fresh cut, it's easy to feed through. So I'll put that through the other side. So there's that. Now I'm going to come through one side on the back. Again, I tend to unravel it with my fingers. One side on the back, like that. And then the other side, I'm going to wrap around my bow, like that. Okay. Now I'm going to tie another little bow using the baker's twine. Like that. There we go. Okay, and then just trim the loose ends. Now I already made one for the purpose of the video, so I'll bring that one over. And the way you're going to adhere this one is you're going to use some of these glue dots. I'm going to use 2, one on each side of the back. Actually, I think one might do it. This is kind of a small bow. But you can use 1 or 2, however many you feel comfortable using. And I'm going to pop that right onto that knot, like that. And then find the perfect spot for it. And press. And there is my finished card project. Try this card in ivory and chocolate brown for a warmer toned look, or add a splash of red for a more vibrant look.